I never thought I'd live to see the day my own mother would push me and my child out into the rain like strangers. But here I am, replaying it over and over again in my mind, trying to figure out when exactly things went so wrong. Maybe it didn't happen all at once. Maybe it was a slow unraveling, like threads quietly snapping one by one, until there was nothing left holding us together. It started when Lily was born. David had just lost his job, and we were barely staying afloat. My mother, surprisingly, offered to let us move into my childhood home, just for a little while, she said. At the time, it felt like a blessing. I still remember the way she smiled when she first held Lily. I wanted to believe that things would be okay. At first, they were. She helped me when I was too exhausted to cook, made tea when I couldn't sleep, and even sang lullabies to Lily. But that version of her didn't last. The warmth disappeared almost without warning. It was replaced by cold silence, cutting glances, and eventually, outright resentment. She began making me feel like an ungrateful guest in the very house I grew up in. Little comments, subtle jabs, constant comparisons to my sister who, according to her, had her life together. I started walking on eggshells, avoiding her gaze, censoring myself at the dinner table. I tried to stay quiet. I told myself it would get better once David got another job, once we saved enough to move out. But nothing ever seemed enough for her. The house began to feel more like a trap than a refuge. I'd wake up dreading her footsteps in the hallway, her presence in the kitchen, her stare when Lily cried too loud or spilled something on the floor. David tried to be helpful. He offered to pay for utilities, to do repairs, even suggested we draw up a short-term lease to make things clearer. But she refused everything. She didn't want clarity, she wanted control. Still, I tried to see the good in her. I convinced myself she was just stressed, that she didn't mean to hurt me, that she would never go too far. But the more we tried to make things work, the more she seemed to hate us. And not quietly. There were moments when I could feel it, radiating off her, the contempt, the judgment, the bitterness she could no longer hide. I kept telling myself we just needed more time. Just a few more paychecks, and we could leave. Just a few more weeks of pretending, and we could breathe again. But then Lily got sick, her fever spiked, and she was burning up in my arms. David stayed home from his night shift, and I spent hours pacing the room, trying to bring her temperature down. I remember the way her little body trembled against mine, the way her cries tore through me. I was so focused on her that I didn't even realize my mother had reached her breaking point. She didn't scream that night. She didn't throw things. She just walked to the front door, opened it wide, and made it clear that we weren't welcome anymore. It didn't matter that Lily was sick, that we had nowhere to go, that it was raining and cold outside. Her eyes were glassy, her expression blank, and that was more terrifying than any rage. I don't remember packing. I only remember grabbing what I could with one arm while holding Lily in the other. We had no shoes on, no jackets, just panic and disbelief. And the pounding of my heart that somehow drowned out even the sound of the storm outside. When the door slammed shut behind us, it felt like the end of something permanent. Not just a chapter, an entire relationship. Something fundamental in me broke that night. We walked for what felt like hours, Lily whimpering against my chest, David trying to get a signal on his dying phone. Eventually, we ended up in a cramped dorm room at his cousin's place. The ceiling leaked, the heater rattled, the bed creaked every time we shifted. But for the first time in a long time, I felt safe even if I was completely shattered inside. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering what I had done to deserve this, wondering if I had missed the warning signs, or if I had simply chosen to ignore them for too long. The next morning, I got a message from her. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't concern. It was just a sentence, cold, short, final, telling me that the locks had been changed and that I shouldn't return. That was the moment it hit me. She hadn't just kicked us out. She had erased us. And for what? Pride, control, hatred? I'll never really know. What I do know is that something in me died that night. A kind of hope, a belief in unconditional love, a trust that mother always meant home. Now I live with the weight of that absence, not just from the house we lost, but from the woman who let us go so easily. And I wonder if Lily will remember any of it. If one day, I'll have to explain why Grandma isn't in our lives, what will I say then? That family isn't always family, that some wounds come not from strangers, but from the ones who held you as a child. There's no easy answer, only silence, a locked door, and the echo of a love that never was. I thought nothing could hurt more than the night my mother locked the door behind us. I believed that was the worst of it, the betrayal, the storm, the sick baby in my arms. But I was wrong. That was only the beginning of a pain I didn't yet know how deep it could go. We spent the first week in that suffocating little dorm room. The mattress creaked with every movement, the walls were stained with moisture, and the radiator only half worked. David didn't say much. I think he was afraid that if he opened his mouth, everything he'd been holding back would explode. I cried quietly, always at night, always when Lily was asleep, but even in sleep, she whimpered, sometimes reaching out toward the door and whispering Baba. I didn't have the heart to tell her that Grandma wasn't coming back. I felt shame, a deep, nauseating shame that crawled under my skin and settled in my bones. I was ashamed for staying too long, for not seeing it coming, for thinking love could overpower resentment. I blamed myself for everything, but then something in me cracked, and the shame turned to fury. That fury found form in a folder of documents we brought to the lawyer. I sat across from him and recited every ugly detail. How long we'd lived there, the help we'd offered, the money we spent on food, diapers, medicine. How she turned from caregiver to aggressor. He listened, took notes, and told me one thing I wasn't prepared to hear. She broke the law. You have a case. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want her punished. What I wanted, desperately, was a sense that what she did wasn't normal, that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't a failure of a daughter for having been discarded like trash. But we filed the suit anyway. When the court summons arrived, my hands trembled so badly I couldn't open the envelope. I stared at it for hours before unfolding the paper. That moment, holding the printed notice that I was suing my own mother, felt like standing on the edge of something final and irreversible. In the courtroom, she didn't even glance at me. Her lawyer spoke for her, reading statements like cold bullets, uninvited residents, manipulation of hospitality, violation of personal boundaries. I felt myself shrinking. I wanted to vanish. I held Lily tighter on my lap and tried to tune it all out, but her words still sliced through me, even if she never spoke them aloud. After that first hearing, we crossed paths in the hallway. She walked right by me like I wasn't there, like I wasn't the daughter she once cradled, like Lily wasn't her granddaughter, crying softly in my arms. I wanted to scream, to grab her and shake the truth into her, but instead, I stood frozen, full of questions she would never answer. That was the day something snapped. She escalated everything. Filed complaints against David, claiming he'd threatened her, called child services anonymously, suggesting we were emotionally unstable. She didn't stop at pushing us out. She wanted to ruin us. We went from being family to being enemies. She didn't just draw a line in the sand, she burned the bridge and salted the ground. I started having panic attacks. I couldn't sleep. Every knock on the door made my heart race. I felt like I was being hunted by someone who knew all my weaknesses, because she was the one who raised me. One day, I saw her outside the courthouse. David wasn't with me, just Lily and me. I prayed, silently, that she'd look at us and remember. That she'd see Lily's soft curls, her wide brown eyes, and recall the baby she once held with trembling joy. But she didn't stop, didn't blink, didn't even glance. Lily reached out toward her with a small, hopeful smile. When the hand wasn't taken, she began to cry. I held my daughter close, my heart breaking all over again, and realized something I hadn't fully accepted. Until then, this woman, the one I used to call Mom, no longer existed. What was left was a hollow shell wearing my mother's face. At night, I began writing everything down. Every court date, every insult, every moment of silence that hurt more than words ever could. I needed somewhere to put the pain so it wouldn't rot me from the inside out. David tried to stay strong, but I saw the tension in his shoulders, the jaw he kept clenched. He hated what this was doing to me, to Lily, To us. And maybe the worst part was knowing that even if we won in court, even if the house was rightfully divided, even if a judge ruled in our favor, something had already been irreparably lost. Not the roof over our heads, a mother, the woman I used to run to when I had a nightmare, the one who made hot chocolate when I was sick, the one who called me my brave girl when I fell off my bike. That woman, she was gone, or maybe she never truly existed. Now, all that's left is silence between us, deeper than any courtroom, louder than any argument, and every time Lily asks why we can't go back home, I have to lie. Because how do you explain to a toddler that sometimes the people who should love you most are the ones who hurt you deepest? It's been 8 months since she locked that door behind us. 8 months since I stood barefoot in the rain with a feverish child on my hip and the realization that I no longer had a mother. The court battle is over now. The papers have been stamped, the signatures finalized. According to the law, we won. The judge acknowledged our rights. A share of the house is legally mine on paper. But what does that even mean? I don't want to live there. I never want to set foot inside those walls again. We could sell it, force her to buy us out, claim what's rightfully ours. That's what our lawyer suggested. You deserve compensation, he said. Don't let her walk away unscathed. But I'm tired. Not just tired like a mother of a toddler tired, though that's true too. I'm soul tired, the kind of tired that no nap, no spa day, no medication can cure. Because fighting her, it didn't heal me, it didn't give me closure. If anything, it opened new wounds I didn't know existed. I wake up with dreams where I'm 5 again, hiding behind the couch while she yells at someone. I dream of the old kitchen, the chipped tiles, the sharp smell of bleach. I see my childhood self, clutching a stuffed bear, pretending everything is okay. I realize now it never was. The door didn't slam shut that night because of one fight. That door was slowly closing for years. I just refused to see it. I look at Lily now, 2 years old and full of questions. She asks about everything, about shadows, about clouds, about ants on the sidewalk. But the question she hasn't asked yet, the one I dread most is, where's Grandma? She still remembers the face, the scent, the voice that once sang her to sleep. Trauma is strange like that. It etches memory into places we don't expect. I don't know how I'll answer when she finally asks. Part of me wants to tell her the truth. That some people, even if they share your blood, are not safe. That love isn't always guaranteed. That some mothers are broken in ways we can't fix. But how do you tell a child that the woman who brought you into this world never really wanted you? Because I've started to believe that's true. It hurts to write it, even more to admit it to myself. But somewhere deep down, I've always known. The way she looked at me when I cried, the silence when I asked for help, the absence of tenderness. It was all there, I just didn't want to name it. Now, with distance, I can see things I couldn't before. My mother didn't just throw me out. She threw out a version of me she never accepted, the emotional one, the sensitive one, the one who didn't become the high-achieving, obedient reflection she wanted to show off to her friends. She tolerated me. She didn't love me. And that difference between being tolerated and being cherished is something I understand in my bones now. I understand it because I hold Lily every night. I kiss her forehead a dozen times a day. I listen when she babbles nonsense and laugh like it's poetry. I love her with a fierceness that leaves no room for conditions. She will never question if she's enough. Not like I did. After the court case ended, I received a message. Not from her, of course not. From her attorney, client willing to offer financial settlement in exchange for silence and closure. Closure, they use that word like it's something you can buy. But closure isn't a check. It's not a property line or a court ruling. It's the slow, painful process of accepting what will never be. And I'm still walking that path. Some days, I fantasize about revenge, about posting our story online, about naming her, shaming her, letting the world see the monster she's hidden behind the title of mother. But I don't, because I don't want to carry her with me anymore. Not her anger, not her judgment, not her emptiness. I want to set her down, not for her, for me. Forgiveness isn't reconciliation. People mix those up all the time. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting her back in. It means I stop letting her take up space in my mind, my chest, my memories. It means I built something new where the ruin used to be. I've started therapy. At first, I didn't think I needed it. I'm functioning, I said. I'm strong. But strength isn't about pretending nothing hurts. It's about having the courage to sit in the hurt and still choose to heal. My therapist asked me something that stuck in my ribs like a thorn. If your mother died tomorrow, what would you feel? My first answer was relief, then guilt for feeling it, then confusion. Then, finally, I said grief. But not for the woman she was, for the mother I needed her to be. That was the moment I started healing. I won't pretend everything's fine now. It's not. I still flinch when I hear doors slam. I still get anxious when I see an unknown number calling my phone. I still look over my shoulder in court buildings, but I'm learning how to trust myself again, learning how to raise a daughter without repeating the cycle, learning how to grieve a person who's still alive, and I'm learning how to let go slowly, painfully, but with purpose. We're moving soon. A new apartment. It's small, but it's ours. David painted Lily's room pale yellow, and I cried when I saw it. Not because it was fancy, it wasn't, but because it felt like a beginning. We've started new traditions, pancake Sundays, dance parties in the kitchen, thankful jars where we drop in little notes every week about what made us smile. Lily adds stickers instead of words, and that's enough. There's still a picture of my mother in an old album. I haven't thrown it away. I don't hate her. I just don't need her anymore. Maybe that's what freedom really is, not vengeance, not victory, but peace. Peace with knowing some wounds won't heal the way you want them to. Peace with accepting you won't get the apology you deserve. Peace with choosing yourself anyway. And one day, when Lily is old enough, and if she ever asks what happened, I'll tell her the truth, gently, carefully, honestly. I'll tell her that we can't control how others love us, but we can choose how we love in return. I'll tell her that strength isn't about staying silent, it's about speaking the truth and surviving it. I'll tell her that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the bravest kind of freedom. And then I'll look her in the eyes and say, I became the mother I never had for you, and maybe, just maybe, that will be enough.